The day my wife looked me in the eyes and chose another man over our marriage, I felt something inside me die. I stood in our living room, staring at the packed suitcase beside her feet, while rain hammered against the windows. "If you walk out that door with him," I said as calmly as I could, "don't ever expect to come back. Our marriage ends the moment you leave." She didn't hesitate. She simply smiled with a confidence that made my blood run cold. "You'll forgive me," she whispered. "You always do." Then she grabbed her suitcase, opened the front door, and left with the man waiting in a black SUV outside. She believed she was walking toward freedom. She had no idea she was walking away from everything. For almost 12 years, I had built a life with Emily. We weren't rich, but we owned a beautiful suburban home, shared countless memories, and had survived more hardships than most couples ever faced. At least, that's what I believed. Looking back, the warning signs had been there for months. Late-night phone calls she took outside. New dresses she claimed were for work. Weekend conferences that somehow never allowed spouses. Every excuse sounded believable because I wanted to believe her. Love has a dangerous way of convincing intelligent people to ignore the truth staring directly at them. The man she left with was Ryan Caldwell, a wealthy real estate developer everyone admired. Expensive cars, designer suits, and endless charm followed him wherever he went. Emily met him during a charity fundraiser 6 months earlier. She insisted he was just a business contact. Then she began comparing me to him. Ryan traveled the world. Ryan owned vacation homes. Ryan understood luxury. Suddenly, everything I did seemed small. Every dinner I cooked, every anniversary gift I bought, every sacrifice I made became invisible beside the glamorous life Ryan promised her. What Emily never knew was that I wasn't nearly as helpless as she imagined. 2 years earlier, after catching subtle hints of financial dishonesty, I quietly hired an attorney and a financial advisor. I transferred my inheritance into a protected trust long before trouble appeared. The house remained legally mine because I had purchased it years before our marriage under a carefully written agreement. Emily believed walking away meant she'd eventually return whenever Ryan disappointed her. She assumed my door would always remain open. She never once imagined I had prepared for the possibility that she might betray me. The first month after she left was strangely peaceful. Friends expected me to fall apart, but instead, I found silence comforting. I painted the walls she'd always hated. I replaced the furniture she insisted looked cheap. I even adopted a golden retriever named Cooper, who immediately claimed the backyard as his kingdom. Slowly, the house transformed from the place where my marriage ended into the place where my new life quietly began. Every change erased another painful memory until the home no longer reminded me of Emily at all. 3 months later, an unexpected visitor arrived. Her name was Sarah Bennett, a nurse who had recently transferred to the local hospital. We met by accident after Cooper escaped through an open gate and ran into the neighborhood park. Sarah spent 20 minutes helping me chase him before bursting into laughter when the stubborn dog finally surrendered for a tennis ball. Unlike Emily, Sarah never cared what kind of watch I wore or how much money I earned. She listened when I spoke. She appreciated ordinary moments. Most importantly, she never pretended to be someone she wasn't. Meanwhile, Emily's glamorous new life wasn't unfolding the way she'd imagined. Ryan loved showing her off at parties, but behind closed doors, his attention wandered quickly. She discovered other women texting him late at night. Vacations became business trips. Promises turned into excuses. She had traded a loyal husband for a man who collected relationships the way some people collected expensive watches. By the time she realized the truth, she had already burned every bridge leading back to the life she abandoned. Pride kept her silent, even as regret slowly consumed her. 6 months after leaving, Emily stood outside my front door holding 2 worn suitcases. Her expensive designer clothes had disappeared, replaced by a simple jacket and tired eyes. She took a deep breath before ringing the bell, clearly expecting to find the lonely husband she had abandoned waiting to forgive her. Instead, footsteps approached from inside. The front door opened, and before Emily could say a single word, another woman smiled warmly from inside the house and asked, "Can I help you?" Emily froze in complete disbelief. The woman standing in my home wasn't a guest. She was wearing my wedding ring. Emily's face turned pale as she stared at the ring on Sarah's finger. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Before Sarah could ask another question, I stepped into the hallway behind her. The shock on Emily's face was unlike anything I had ever seen. She looked from me to Sarah and then back again, as if hoping she had misunderstood what was happening. "You got married," she whispered. I nodded once. "You made your choice 6 months ago, Emily. I made mine afterward." The confidence she had walked away with was gone, replaced by a silence that spoke louder than any apology ever could. She tried to force a smile, but tears quickly filled her eyes. "Ryan lied to me," she admitted. "He promised we'd build a life together. Then I found out I wasn't the only woman." I wasn't surprised. Friends had quietly told me about Ryan's reputation long before Emily met him. He enjoyed the chase far more than commitment. Emily had ignored every warning because the fantasy of luxury had blinded her. Now she stood on my porch with 2 suitcases and nowhere to go, expecting sympathy from a man she had abandoned without looking back. Sarah glanced at me, silently asking if I wanted privacy. I squeezed her hand gently. "It's okay," I said. Turning back to Emily, I spoke calmly. "I warned you before you left. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I simply told you the truth. If you walked away with him, our marriage was over." Emily lowered her head. "I thought you'd cool down," she whispered. "You've always forgiven me before." I shook my head. Forgiving someone isn't the same as waiting forever for them to come back. Emily looked past me into the house she once called home. Almost everything had changed. The old gray walls had been replaced with warm colors. Family photos featuring her were gone, replaced by pictures of hiking trips, charity events, and weekends Sarah and I had spent together. Cooper ran into the hallway, wagging his tail happily before stopping in front of Emily. The dog sniffed her for a second, then turned around and happily returned to Sarah, who laughed as she scratched behind his ears. Even the dog had chosen where he belonged. "I don't have anywhere else," Emily finally admitted. "Ryan kicked me out after I confronted him. My apartment lease ended because I thought we'd be moving into his penthouse." For a brief moment, I remembered the woman I had once loved. I remembered birthdays, road trips, late-night conversations, and dreams we once shared. But memories alone couldn't erase betrayal. They couldn't undo the day she chose another man's promises over the vows we had made together. Compassion didn't require me to sacrifice my future for someone who had willingly destroyed our past. "I'll pay for a hotel for a week," I offered. "I'll even help you contact a realtor or find a rental if you need one. But this isn't your home anymore." Emily looked stunned. "You're really sending me away?" she asked. I answered quietly, "No, you sent yourself away the day you walked out that door." Sarah never interrupted. She simply stood beside me, offering quiet support without a single judgmental word. That alone reminded me how different our love fell from the constant emotional games I had once mistaken for marriage. Emily wiped away her tears and slowly picked up her suitcases. Before leaving, she turned one last time. "Did you ever stop loving me?" she asked. I thought carefully before answering. I stopped waiting for someone who had already chosen another life. It wasn't meant to hurt her. It was simply the truth. Love can survive many hardships, but it cannot survive endless disrespect. Trust, once shattered completely, rarely returns in the same form. She nodded silently, finally understanding that there are some doors that never reopen once they close. Over the following months, I heard bits and pieces about Emily through mutual friends. She moved into a small apartment, found a regular office job, and kept mostly to herself. Ryan's business eventually became the target of multiple lawsuits involving fraudulent investment deals, and his glamorous empire began collapsing under the weight of his own decisions. Emily wasn't involved in any of his legal troubles, but she carried something far heavier than financial loss. She had to live every day knowing she had traded a faithful husband for an illusion that disappeared the moment it became inconvenient. Life, meanwhile, continued moving forward. Sarah and I renovated the backyard, planted a small garden, and hosted family barbecues that filled the house with laughter instead of arguments. Peace became our normal. I realized happiness wasn't found in expensive vacations or luxury cars. It lived in quiet mornings, honest conversations, shared responsibilities, and knowing the person beside you would still choose you when life became difficult. Those simple moments were worth more than every flashy promise Ryan had ever made. Nearly a year after Emily's visit, I received a handwritten letter in the mail. Inside, she apologized without excuses for the first time. She admitted that greed, pride, and unrealistic dreams had cost her the best relationship she would probably ever have. She didn't ask to come back. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She simply thanked me for once loving her sincerely and wished me a happy life. I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and quietly closed it. Some chapters deserve to be remembered, but not reopened. Standing on my back porch one evening as the sun disappeared beyond the trees, I watched Sarah laughing while Cooper chased a tennis ball across the yard. That simple scene reminded me of something I had learned the hard way. The greatest revenge is never making someone suffer. It's building a life so peaceful, honest, and fulfilling that the person who walked away realizes they abandoned something priceless. Emily had believed another man held a better future. Instead, she lost the only future that had ever truly been real. And by the time she understood that, a complete stranger had already become the woman proudly calling my house her home.